Got it.
Good evening.
Have you seen this book?
No, I have not seen this book. We are already streaming. I have not seen this book. What is this book about?
This is my felicitation volume on the occasion of my 60th birthday,
No,
which was brought out by my students and colleagues.
no, I have not. I have not seen it, and that's a pity, I must say. I've seen the volumes you have prepared yourself for your teachers, but I have not seen your volume.
Okay, it's more than around 20 years old now. It was published in 2002. Anyway.
So today I would want to speak with Professor Saroja Bhate about Sanskrit. We have spoken about Sanskrit lately, but I have not asked a few questions, and the main question remains is how Saroja Bhate learned Sanskrit. So, okay, reciting stotras at 5 years, that's a good start of a career. Was there something else? Or the next, it was only reciting? Or what added after? I mean, for example, in Russia, when we learn Sanskrit, we start with Devanagari. We start with Devanagari, we start with Shiksha, so we write. And speaking comes after. So it seems that the Indian approach is vice versa, like first you speak and then you write. Is it always so?
No. First of all, you tell me whether you have already started the interview.
Yes. Now it's already started.
Okay. Okay. Before I start talking to you and giving my replies to your questions, can I put a couple of questions to you?
Yeah, you can try to.
Very simple questions.
Right.
Because you know that will help me chalk out my course. So my very basic question is, what exactly is the purpose of organizing such interviews? Because you have already interviewed Madhav.
I want to know how a Sanskrit scholar is made. How a girl or a boy becomes a scholar.
Mm-hmm.
So I have done it with Russian scholars for a year already, but I felt there are few scholars whom I at least a bit know, who might agree talking with me for an hour and telling, I mean, I want to see if there are different patterns, or is there more in common, or it's always different. So I have that question still unanswered. If the patterns have more in common or more unique, the path of the Sanskrit scholar, at what time he becomes a scholar. So when you were 5, you were not yet a scholar. And even when you got your first Sanskrit awards, you were not yet recognized as a scholar. For the first time, your family recognized you as someone who might get some good education, but still. So when the love for Sanskrit becomes career, I don't know how can you say it. So that would be the first answer to the first question. Is there something else?
Okay, so what I gather from your answer is that Sanskrit scholarship is in the focus. You keep Sanskrit scholarship as the main topic around which your questions, they seem to be revolving, isn't it?
Yeah, I could say yes.
Yeah. Okay. In that case, let me first of all make this thing clear that being a Sanskritist or a Sanskrit scholar was never my cup of tea. Perhaps I made it slightly clear in my yesterday's talk, but today I want to talk about it more because you are going to ask me many more questions about how I studied Sanskrit and how I taught Sanskrit and all that. But in my heart of hearts, let me tell you that that was quite secondary, of a secondary importance to me.
What was the first thing? What was the main thing?
No, I feel very shy in expressing all those things because all of you will laugh at me because
Love? How can we? I mean, it's the sincerity I am here for. It is, I've seen last time I was in Pune in 2019, what I saw was, and it pained me actually, I saw for the first time that Sanskrit can be done as a career without actually any love or passion, I would say. So for the first time, I discovered that there is some career in Sanskrit. I mean, I was surprised. I was always thinking that it is for those who are blessed or cursed. Anyway, for they must be passionate about. So something they want to start and finish themselves, something they want to change. And then I found people who don't want to change nothing, who are happy about things are, because what you told is like the path of the rebellion. So you try to change, and then I found that no, not everybody is going that path, that there are people totally happy about how things are. And that surprised me because I'm totally unhappy. I mean, totally. I believe that it should not be as it is now. I don't know if it was better or worse before, but I want to change things. And so, yeah, so I can agree. I can understand that there's something above. I mean, maybe family or what. I mean, yes, I can agree that. But I mean, your second passion, which we could call Sanskrit, you have done so many things. I mean, it's not just a hobby. You cannot say like that.
no,
No, you cannot.
no. Let me make it slightly clear. I do have a passion for Sanskrit. I do love Sanskrit. But there is a difference between love marriage. Yes, and marriage, love after marriage. So I was first married to Sanskrit, and then I developed love for Sanskrit.
So that's an Indian approach, I would say. First marriage, then love.
But now when I, look back into this whole journey of my life, I ask myself, did I really want to make a career in Sanskrit? But actually, it is better I keep silent about this because this is not in focus today. So I'm not going to tell you what I really wanted to be because that is something all of you will laugh at.
Yesterday you told about dancing, and it didn't make me smile too wide. So I guess we could accept anyway if you don't feel like telling it. So, okay, so at 5 years of age, you are starting reciting stotras. That means you have some memory, some musicality is there. So that's not the usual way in Russia. We don't start at 5 years. We start at 4 or 20 or 30, but not at 5 years, and we don't start with stotras. So that's a bit different approach. So when people come to me and they ask, what's the difference? Do you teach Sanskrit as in India? And I say, no, they are two totally different approaches. And we have almost nothing in common, those two approaches. So how? I mean, what was the next step? So you were reciting for the next 10 years or did some other steps come?
Reciting was, of course, just one part of the study, always, even today. Reciting and they call it they use the bad word as mugging. Mugging of everything, yes. So trying to retain in memory, memorizing That always has been one part of Sanskrit, but that doesn't mean only recitation is Sanskrit. But unfortunately, the method which was used in schools during those days, and I think today also there is no much change, is not really good, because that was indirect method. More or less, it was a mixture of Western and traditional method. But we started with paradigms of words like Ramaha, Ramo, Ramaha, Ramam, Ram, Raman, like that. And then paradigms also of verbs.
Right.
And then for each and every standard, some texts were prescribed in schools. Textbooks were already published and they were prescribed. So we used to read lessons from these texts. We used to translate them, and we used to explain grammar of each and every word. And beyond that, unfortunately, nothing was taught to us how to appreciate, say, for instance, if there is a passage from Kalidasa, how to appreciate that poetry. So that all these things, they were never taught in the school. That started some time in college, and college also, if you are lucky to get a good teacher who really can explain the beauty of the poetry to you, then only you can have it. Otherwise, generally, even in colleges, the teachers used to come to the class, read the book, translate the sentences word by word, line by line, explain grammar of each and every word, then give you some important notes on certain words. So it was, kind of exam-oriented approach.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of questions will appear in the examination was actually the method that was adopted even by teachers.
So it was, or it still remains?
It more or less it remains. And sometimes I tried to introduce change in my way of teaching. When I started teaching, basically the first change I introduced was to give more emphasis on Sanskrit. So while teaching grammar, almost 80 to 90% of the part I used to speak in Sanskrit. I used to explain the meaning in English, because Pune University was actually was well known for this use of English method, English medium for teaching. But sometimes some students, they wanted me to explain in Marathi. So my approach was bilingual, sometimes trilingual, because
So sometimes Marathi, sometimes Sanskrit, sometimes English.
Yes, and sometimes Marathi is, but in the same class,
So, how old were you when you started teaching actually Sanskrit? How old were you? I mean, were you 20 years
No, around 30. I must have been.
And students were like around 18 years aged, like the students in the university. How old?
Yes, average, yes.
Okay. So, because when you say teaching Sanskrit means all of them already had some background. Because I mean, when I say teaching Sanskrit, it's mostly about people who never had any background. So there's the difference. So some of them have learned at least the Rama paradigm by heart, like 10 years before they actually came to the university. So that means, okay, so you tried to increase the number of explanations in Sanskrit medium.
Yeah.
That's one of your, let's say, differences.
Yes.
Right.
Particularly for a subject like grammar, explanation in Sanskrit is more convenient also. If you try to explain a certain rule of Panini, in Sanskrit rather than in English or Marathi becomes easier even for understanding.
It is what Palsla learned you when you understood that the medium of Sanskrit should be used more than just the Sanskrit, with what you're told, that he tried.
I never noticed it and I didn't care for it, but I myself found that it was more convenient
Okay.
for me as well as for students.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that was also useful because then it also enables students to speak in Sanskrit.
So when you say students, you mean like 3 students, 5? How big were the classes, or I mean?
I was taking postgraduate classes.
Mm-hmm.
Only for a year or two, I was taking undergraduate classes. Immediately after I passed my MA, I couldn't find job anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And I found a part-time job as a part-time teacher in a college. And
Mm-hmm.
then I was teaching undergraduate courses. So then there was Sanskrit was not offered as a special subject at that time by the students. So it was a kind of a general class of 20-30 students. But when I started teaching in the university, I was teaching to general as well as special. I mean, those who offered some Vyakarana as a special subject, they formed a very small group, 4, 5, at the most 8. I remember.
So it was always so. I mean, when you yourself learned, it was like small groups, like about around like 4 people groups. I mean, it's always like small groups, right?
When I was doing my MA, only 2 of us were there, myself and Ashoka Kluskar.
And nowadays, do you know what's nowadays in Pune University? Is it similar?
Nowadays, I have heard that sometimes there are 6, 7, 8 students.
Okay, so it's 2 to 8 students. 2 to 8.
The number varies, and maybe the reason behind opting for Vyakarana also it might be different. That needs to be actually studied. Why do they opt for Vyakarana? We have to find out.
Did you yourself ever ask your students why did they opt for Vyakarana, or you never did?
I asked them, but I got very funny answers.
Like?
Except a few students who were really very sincere. They told me that that strengthens the understanding of Sanskrit language. Well, grammar is always the foundation of any language. And so we always feel that if we study grammar, Vyakarana, then we can understand any text, not only literary text, but also any text, say from Mimamsa, Nyaya, or any other text.
So they were like more serious. And what were the more funnier answers? Like, what were the reasons for going for Vyakarana?
Very funny reasons. One student told me that in a certain college there is a post of a Sanskrit professor vacant, and they said that if you specialize in grammar, we can offer you a job. So,
that's what I meant. I mean, the career part is still there. I mean, it's
yeah. So go to the university, get admitted to MA course, and take grammar as a special subject. Master in Sanskrit Vyakarana, and then we will offer you a job here, because we don't have any teacher who can teach Vyakarana.
Love it, like it, you have talent or none, does not matter.
That simply doesn't matter. But on the top of it, let me tell you, some students offer Sanskrit as a subject for their post-graduation only because they were denied admission in other subjects.
Right, so that's the last place where nobody wants to go, and they would want to study some Chinese or Japanese language, but they were denied. They have not enough marks for engineering, medicine, and then they can go for Sanskrit, like that.
Exactly. But this is not the case with India. This is not the case with University of Pune. let me tell you my own experience about this kind of selection. When I visited it was East Berlin at that time. In 1984, I was a visiting fellow at Humboldt University, and I was teaching to a small group of some 10 students. I was so happy to find 10 students opting for Sanskrit in Humboldt University. So I started asking each and every student why he opted for Sanskrit as usual. And I found that there were two students who very clearly straight away told me that they did not opt for Sanskrit, but because there was a vacancy for 2 seats in Sanskrit and they were denied admission into Hindi, they are kind of forced to take up Sanskrit. So such things also they happen. It's okay.
So there is a story that Renaud in Paris, he never asked the students why they came. When they came, he never asked. So he asked only on the last lecture when they'll never meet again, and only then he asked. So it's, I mean, if you know why they came, it makes it makes you like some connection. You do try to keep in mind their interests, and it makes you closer. And so he tried not to let them too close to him. So not trying to know why they came. If they come, they come. Yes, sometimes they ask themselves, I mean, why? Why did we came? We're not sure why we came. I mean, we came, but why we came? Is it in India similar? Is it sometimes they can't answer at all, or there always is an answer they have, funny or not funny? Is it sometimes that people don't know why they learn Sanskrit or Vyakarana?
Now, forget Vyakarana, but let me tell you one more incidence. When I was in University of Paris 3, I was supposed to give a lecture there in the class. And as I was entering the classroom, I found so many students were there, in such a big number. I was so shocked. Oh, how is it that all these students, they are interested in Sanskrit, that too in a talk of an Indian. So I asked Professor Filiosa, why so many students are here? So he said, oh, these students, they are sitting at the back side because this room has got a heater and it's very cold outside.
So there are so many reasons to listen to a Sanskrit scholar. The number of reasons is bigger than we can actually imagine. Somebody would be frozen if not this Sanskrit lecture, and yes, somebody would be lost.
Yeah.
So how is your approach different than, okay, so the medium Sanskrit, is there something else you insist that differs from what?
I tried, but I failed. Should I tell you the story?
Yes. The failing stories is the most interesting. When we succeed, the books that you have succeeded, we already know. I want to hear the story of the failures. And
it is true, and you can verify it with those students who are still there. It was about, say, 30 years ago, maybe. It happened sometime in 1995 or something. I was teaching Meghaduta for many years. And then I was so tired of teaching the same text, using the same method. So I entered the class. On the very first day, I told the students that let us now enjoy this Meghaduta. How? Then I told them that I propose that those who are able to sing, they will, every day they will sing one verse. They will put it to good music, some raga, etc. And if any one of you is a good artist, maybe he can draw some pictures. And then those who already have seen the very good Marathi translations of very well-known Marathi poets, then we will read them out, we will discuss them, and we will try to, appreciate. We'll try to find out the beauty in this poetry.
The aesthetical part of it, not the grammar part.
Yeah. So let us have an aesthetic experience of Meghadutam in the class. So kind of multimedia appreciation. And I started doing that, and students also were very enthusiastic. There were many girls who could sing beautifully. So there was a competition among the girls to sing the verses. So every day they came up with some beautiful ragas and tunes. And some students who were really good at paintings and art, they used to draw pictures and all that. But slowly and slowly, these students, they lost interest in all these things. The first day, there were about 25 students. It was a general class. And when I found that the number came down to almost 10 and even going less and less, I was just slightly worried why it happens like that. I am introducing new method. We are really appreciating the program in the class, and I was enjoying it. So one day as I was entering the class, I found one student coming out of this class. So I got hold of him and I asked him, "Oh, why are you not attending the class? Where are you going?" Then he was a bit shy and he couldn't really give me answer. And this, no. I said, "Give me a very honest, frank answer. I will not be angry with you." And then I took him to my room. My room was just adjacent to the class. Then he came to my class and he said, "Should I tell you the truth, madam? Please don't get angry with me." I said, "Okay, come on." I said, "To be very frank with you, madam, we don't get anything in your class. Because, translation is available in the textbooks. We find many books in the library where the translation is available. We find also the notes, grammar, everything, whatever is required for the examination is available in the library. Why should we attend your class? There is no purpose, and therefore we are not attending your class." So the best method is to read the text, translate it so that they quickly start taking down notes, they word by word translation, because they feel that if they follow the translation in the published books, perhaps I may not give them good marks because I would be the examiner. So giving the translation in the same words which I use in the class, they used to take down in the notes. Then footnotes, grammar, everything they used to take down in the class. And
so when it becomes too easy, it becomes too easy and uninteresting for them. Yeah. What's the lesson?
The lesson is you cannot really introduce such drastic changes in teaching.
No, I mean, it could be like, I guess maybe for once, you cannot do it too long. I mean, I guess the lesson is that you can have it once, but it doesn't work twice.
No, actually, as long as the students are exam oriented and as long as they look only for marks in the examination, they simply don't bother about these things.
It is very strange for me to hear this exam orientation, because it seems that India is really exam. I mean, I don't see, in this regards, I see a different picture. Like, I mean, the people want to actually enjoy and start to understand, and whatever the mark, actually, I mean, it seems to be somehow different. The exam orientation of Indian Sanskrit colleges is a bit different than what's outside the world, or where it's similar in the in France, in Germany, in Austria, where you went, were it somehow similar in this regard, the exam orientation?
I haven't noticed it because I didn't stay in any one of these places for a long time. I was there for a very short period, so I don't know what exactly was going on there.
Okay.
But I must tell you that in the West, wherever I went, I found the students more inquisitive, more sincere, taking more interest in the class than the students in here in India.
Didn't it surprise you?
Sorry?
Did it not surprise you?
It did, but again, I knew why the things are like that.
And why?
Yeah, I knew the reason, so it's okay. It's actually the orientation that differs. Orientation into studies in the West is quite different from that in India, and therefore this difference is bound to be there.
But
Each and every student here.
But I mean, I mean, if we count the quantity of Indian students is it should be, as I suppose, high above the number of the Western Sanskrit students. So this is what makes me feel strange. I mean, when you said that in the felicitation volume there were more foreigners than Indian scholars, so it makes me feel strange. I mean, still,
You know, quantity and quality, they are always in reverse proportion. You know that, don't you?
So I mean, sometimes people get the feeling that people in Russia, that if you go to India, like if you ask the next person, he'll start speaking Sanskrit. So I mean, and then when you come to India, and then I speak with some learned Sanskritists, they say, okay, there is one person in Yakarna in Delhi, and then what? So I start to understand that in whole of India there are maybe like 4 people in one subject and 3 in another. So it's not like tens and hundreds and thousands and tens of thousands of trains of Sanskrit scholars around in every village. So I get the feeling that the numbers are not as high as I would suppose based on the general number of people involved in these studies, at least at some level.
Hmm.
And it makes me feel that maybe Germany has a similar amount of Sanskrit scholars than India at some time of history. I don't know.
Yes. In Germany, there were 42, I think, universities where Sanskrit was being taught.
And it's at least 14 now that still has it. So
yeah. Okay.
So your approach, okay. So you did some experimenting, and it didn't turn always good out.
Yeah.
And so, other than introducing Sanskrit medium, what was the thing you actually found good, other than translating together, making the notes? I mean, that's quite everyone should do, I guess. I mean, was there something that they told, oh, this is why Saroja is she has so good students, PhD students, because she does this and that, or what?
First of all, I don't consider myself as something very distinct and an extraordinary teacher and someone who has introduced any innovations in teaching, etc. I was just an ordinary teacher, always have been. But the only thing which I insisted was, and I have been insisting, is that unless I thoroughly understand the text, I will not teach it to my students. And in order to thoroughly understand the text, I used to consult many books that were available that can throw light on the meaning of the text.
So that means that the Meghaduta was not just a one-night decision.
No. And further, if I found that there is some research work available on that particular topic, say for instance, there is a sutra in Panini's grammar, and somebody has already written on that sutra itself, or that sutra deals with some definition and someone has written an article on how that definition came into existence and what exactly is the meaning of that. So, giving more and more information to students on the points, on the topics emerging out of the text, which I am going to teach. So giving more and more information to the students, making it more and more clear to them, and trying to see that the class is not boring by introducing some, some
Because I mean,
story.
singing, it is the most interesting thing you can actually do with Sanskrit, if you ask me. And so this is very strange, actually, that the vice versa happens, that the interest gets lost at some point.
Because looking at the students, the teacher can simply come to know whether the class he is teaching is really interesting or not, or whether the students are bored. So I think that feeling the teacher must be able to get from the body language of the students. So I always used to tell, whenever I give a lecture, I always tell them, as soon as find even a single person yawning in this room, I will stop talking. So this was the point I always made very clear. Mm-hmm. So students also, I think they also knew that. So if they thought that the class is going to be boring, then they started yawning.
So if one asks, would you say you are a teacher? What is your main, I mean, you are like, if Sanskrit is the second passion and it's not, it's love after marriage, then, I mean, could one say that is one main priority, or you're like half there, your internal, your love remains for Vedanta, you never came there, still you look in that direction, or you're a teacher, or who are you?
Yes, I am a teacher. I should say that I'm a born teacher. I like to teach. And why, because there is a hidden craze in me to boss. I know that a teacher is always a boss in the classroom.
Right.
And the students are the ones who are being bossed.
Right.
When I look, I will have to take you back to my childhood now. And unfortunately, I don't know whether this is relevant.
It is.
In this, yeah. But when I look at my childhood, what I find is that I always used to gather friends from the neighborhood and used to tell them, oh, now let us play. Now let us sing. Let us enact this drama. Let us go to this place. And this was kind of a bossing, and they used to listen to me, and I used to get so happy. So now I realize that there is a hidden tendency. I have a craze for bossing maybe, and that is why when I had to choose between administration and academics, I was more interested in administration. When I became the head of the department, I put 80 to 90% of my energy into administration because I liked it. Because it was in administration that I could boss. let me be very honest with you.
Yes,
And therefore,
I mean, yes,
teaching is my passion. I like teaching very much. Even today, I like teaching, and I continue to teach.
So some of the students whom you have taught, they teach Sanskrit afterwards themselves, right? I mean, they became teachers, didn't they? Some of them?
Yes, yes, yes.
And some of those teachers already have teachers. I mean, is this are there some students of your, I mean, you have teacher and the teacher teach the teacher and the teacher teach the teacher. So is there like the line, is it going on, or has it, I mean, are the teachers making new teachers?
Yes, of course. Some of my teachers are far better than what I am. Some of my students are far better than what I am. They are very good established teachers. They are very well-known teachers. And they are also creating new teachers. They are working on several research projects and doing a lot of, creative work also.
Do you recognize something, some part of you in them? Do you see there? I mean, they might not even themselves be aware of that. Do you see, recognize something, or?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so.
Yes, so you like to be the boss. Okay, understood. So it's a legal way to be a boss.
I don't know, but yes. I always like to lead people.
Right. I can
So
understand that. I can understand that very
call it
well.
a leadership. They call it a leadership quality.
Yes.
So I always like that.
Your teachers were somehow similar in these regards. They were like the organizing, like, no? Were they similar in this aspect, like your teachers?
Aspects like what?
Like trying to lead, or they were like shy and never tried to?
You cannot make a generalization. No, each and everyone has his own, peculiarity, and every human being is again idiosyncratic.
Okay,
So
I mean, in Pune, I would say, let's say, I don't know, in 1917, if one would ask you who are the main Sanskrit scholars, you still could name them. I mean, there are some above, or I don't know, better known than others. So I mean, there always are some that who are known for good or for bad.
Let me give you one example. You know Professor R.M. Dandekar.
Only very generally.
He was my teacher. He was a strict disciplinarian. He was a perfect teacher, but he didn't allow any student to come to the class late.
Mm-hmm.
And I just tell you one incidence. It so happened that we were going, myself and my friend, we were going to the classroom. The lecture was to start exactly at 12 o'clock. So we were going towards the classroom just 2 minutes before 12 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
Then somebody told us that, look, Professor Dandekar is behind you. So he is also going towards the class. So politely, we gave him way behind. So he went ahead of us. He went to the classroom, and then we ran after him. And I was standing at the door, and I asked him, "May I come in, sir?" He looked at me, and then he said, "No."
But he saw you letting him in.
Yes, but in spite of all that, he was such a strict disciplinarian that he didn't want any student to come to the class after he entered the class. So, I was about to cry. I said, I came running actually from my house, and I caught the bus because it was really an ordeal to get into the bus also during that time.
Mm-hmm.
And this person says, no. I took it as an insult. I became, so upset, and tears came into my eyes. So also my friend. But then his attendant, who was there to close the door, as soon as he entered, he always used to close the door, not to allow anyone to enter. Then that attendant, he said, don't be so upset, just go around. Below the window, there is a parapet wall. You go out of this building, you mount that parapet wall, sit below the window and just listen to his lecture. Because, his voice was so clear and loud that you can hear him even outside the class, standing anywhere. So now that became a practice for us. Whenever we reached university late because the bus was late, we used to go to that parapet wall, sit there.
Did he know that?
No. Let me finish the whole episode, and you will come to know. One day he was taking a class, and I was taking a note, just sitting below that window. And it was his habit to ask questions. So he asked one question, and from outside, I gave the answer. I was not mindful of the fact that I was sitting outside the class. And I don't know what happened in the classroom, but there was another student also, another friend of mine who was sitting by my side, and she looked at me with great anger, and she said, "Oh, you are such a fool. What did you do? Now he will come to know that we are sitting here." But of course, we were not visible. And it continued like that, So, discipline is something which I learned from him. But of course, I did not follow it. I did never make it a rule in my own case.
But it did help you, the picture of discipline in the administrative work. So you didn't practice it, but you got the idea of how punctuality actually matters.
Yes. So I did follow that discipline in other aspects. Of course, in case of administration. And that really helped me. But also, his personality also taught us how one should not be. Because, whenever we used to take our tea in the tea room, as soon as he entered the tea room, we always used to keep quiet because he is such a towering personality and he was such a strict person. So even while taking his tea, he did not talk to anyone. No. And sometimes if he really wanted to share some joke or something happened in the field of Sanskrit, maybe they have started a new university where Sanskrit is introduced, etc. Then he spoke, and then the other seniors say, oh yes. And we students always used to be very quiet. And then, when you take tea only for relaxation, tea time is meant for relaxation. And if that time also you spend in a very tense mode, then it's of no use. So this is how, he was a discipline to, I should say, to the extreme. And this aspect of his personality, we really did not like. Whenever we entered his room, he used to look at us and he said, yes. And then if he could answer our question in a minute, and then he through his body language, he told us, now leave the room.
So that means that you learned not only how to, but how not to.
Yes, of course. Not only from him, but also from all other teachers. I think I have got that ability, let me tell you, to pick up good things and to abandon bad things.
So as doing the administrative tasks in the Pune University, is there some funny story related to Sanskrit, something that nobody other than you was aware of, or I don't know, I mean, it must have been a long journey.
Perhaps my students remember it far better than I, because I was all the while, I can tell you only one thing about administration. As I told you, I was keenly interested in administration. The moment I became head of the department, I started thinking about how I should develop it into a better center for education. Because, I knew that I was sitting on a hot chair. The previous heads of the departments had been people like, R.N. Dandekar and H.D. Joshi, who had gained international reputation, and because of whom many foreign scholars also used to come to the department.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, the department has already developed into an international center.
Right.
So I was aware of this, this history of the department. And then I told myself, look, you have to maintain this stature of the department, this international reputation. And if possible, you have to add to that. And therefore, with full concentration, I devoted my whole and soul for the development of the department. And what I did was to organize different courses, workshops, seminars, extracurricular activities, co-curricular activities. And I tried to see that the students keep themselves busy the whole day. And they are, busy getting more and more knowledge in different disciplines. So, for instance, I started organizing workshops in manuscriptology, in paleography.
There were none before, or none in the university?
No. And all that without spending a single rupee from the university budget, from the departmental budget. For instance, there was an institute called Indira Gandhi National Center for the Arts in Delhi. And I came to know that they were organizing such workshops in manuscriptology. And then I contacted them and I told them, yes, my department is welcoming you to all of you to organize courses. I will provide you space. I will provide you students. I will provide you infrastructure. You can come here, you are most welcome, and organize the courses.
And then, because it's prestigious, because Pune University has the name?
Yes, of course. And this is how, I succeeded in organizing these courses. Then I also organized some summer schools in Indian and Western logic. Professor M.P. Rege, who was a well-known philosopher, he started a project called Pandit Philosopher Project. And his purpose was to bring Indian and Western philosophers on the same platform. So he organized lectures of philosophers in Western philosophy who were trained in Western philosophy. And side by side with that, he organized also lectures from traditional Pandits in Sanskrit on subjects like Nyaya, Mimamsa, Vedanta, etc. So once I came to know about this, and I straight away approached him and I asked him, sir, why don't you start these workshops in my department? My students will be happy to attend. So these workshops also I started in the department. Then some Fulbrighter used to come to the department as a visiting fellow for 2-3 months. Then I asked him, which are the subjects you are specialized in? So he said, well, I know Greek very well. I said, okay, will you teach Greek to my students?
So you took whatever came around, whatever the topic, it doesn't matter a lot. You tried to make it a mix.
Yeah. So I managed to get permission from the university to organize a certificate course in Greek. So board of studies could give that resolution. I tried to get passed. So I started a certificate course in Greek, a certificate course in Tibetan. So whenever I found a good scholar in Tibetan, I requested him to teach Tibetan to my students.
So that means that you realize that the power of speaking to people is what can actually bring together your power of standing like for the university and their abilities. So communications is like what you're strong in.
Then the UGC, University Grants Commission, they started refresher courses for teachers in colleges and
Right.
universities. And Pune University also was one of the centers where such refresher courses were being organized. And it came to the Department of Sanskrit also. They offered this facility to us. So I started organizing refresher courses. In all, I conducted 18 refresher courses. The maximum number of refresher courses conducted by UGC was 18, and that was my department. And during those courses, I invited well-known scholars, traditional pandits from all over the country. And they gave lectures. My students were allowed to attend because, all teachers from different universities were invited as participants. In addition to that, I asked my students also to sit in the classroom to attend those courses. And then I got their lectures tape recorded so that the next generations also could listen to these lectures. And then so many, hundreds of cassettes were prepared during those courses.
So it's yet to be deciphered?
Yeah. Then I organized national and international workshops in collaboration with different universities, such as Switzerland, this Bhartruhari International Conference. With the help of Sahitya Academy, I organized one international seminar on Indology, past, present, and future, which was attended by not less than 20 international scholars at that time. So all these activities were going on, and many international students used to come to visit the department, and they used to read different texts. I asked some of my students also to read with those students who had a very elementary knowledge of Sanskrit. So the students were very happy because they got opportunity to teach. And senior students were assigned to different teachers.
Mm-hmm.
So many students from many different countries in Europe, even Australia and Europe and US, they used to visit us during that period. So it was thriving at that time. It was bustling with number of activities.
So you like bringing people together in the field of
Yes,
Sanskrit that they don't feel lonely.
yes, that gave me full satisfaction of having done something for the department during my tenure as the head for 15 years. So academics, of course, I had to keep slightly away, but
Mm-hmm.
of course, that doesn't mean that I did not do any academics, because earlier I had participated in research projects with H.D. Joshi, Dr. Parsule, and I got enough training in writing books, in writing research works. So we started taking up different projects, and I also started writing my own books.
Is there something you still want to publish? Some of your research? Or
No. Actually, let me be again very honest with you. And I am a person with inertia. whatever research I have done, if you call me a Sanskritist, I am a Sanskritist, I am a researcher, made to order. Did you get the meaning? Somebody asked me to write a book on this subject. I wrote it. Somebody asked me to present.
So you want to say it was always from somewhere, it was not your initial idea.
Pushing, yes. Somebody pushed me to do something. Even, Professor Joshi, when he was the head of the department, he used to ask me to go to some conference, attend the conference and read a paper. And he used to tell me, like Professor Persule, now here is an invitation to me. They want me to attend, but I'm so busy, I can't attend. So why don't you go? I will suggest your name. So, yes, I said yes. And then I went to, places like, Kurukshetra University and many other places. And I knew that he just wanted to give me good exposure. But that helped me a lot. But all these research papers and whatever I did was again made to order. Because they wanted me to write a paper on, say, post-independence Sanskrit literature. I presented a paper on that. So, women in ancient India, I presented a paper. But, it didn't come from my heart. I didn't initiate anything.
Right.
So all my journey is actually made to order as a Sanskritist.
That should be it. I have asked most of the questions I have for today, and I give you my thanks for being sincere.
Don't ask any more questions, because then again I will be a laughing stock from the listener. So it is better I keep.
Thanks, and I hope that people who will listen to us will see the personal side of names they've seen only in books published, like that they are still people.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for again giving me this chance to share some of my very, very private aspects of my person with you. So thank you and good night.
Good night.